Welcome to the Rex Andrews Show. Glad to have you. If you are a new listener, welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad to have you. And I'm not afraid to beg. So if you are new and haven't given us a rating yet, please hit 5 stars. We'll thank you later. And if you are a returning listener, thank you very much. And it's because of you and our great guests, we have cracked the top 10 fastest growing podcasts out there. And that's exciting because there are a million podcasts in the iTunes store. So there's a lot of content to be listened to. Okay, so quick house cleaning, just like normal. Don't forget to subscribe. If you hate the platform you're currently listening on, don't worry. We're on 23 of them. You can find us worldwide on all the podcasting platforms, big ones down to the smallest. And of course, go to our website at rexandrewshow.com because there you're going to find the bios of all of our guests. We always have interesting people on the show. All right. So that's rexandrewshow.com. Don't forget there. And also, of course, we'll put in the plug for the social media. We're found on all the major social media sites. And the podcast is always found on YouTube and soon to be Rumble. Okay. So now I want to introduce a great guest today. And I always talk about this, and I'm a worn out record, but I'm going to tell you again, got too many interests for just one lifetime. So around the corner, I always feel there's another discovery. And today we have another discovery for you. Very interesting background, person that's doing some very interesting things. And so I want to introduce our guest today. She's a new author, a first-time author, getting a book out there, which is really exciting. She's done freelance writing out there, so quite a bit of that. And in essence, I would probably say she's just a storyteller, a very good storyteller. And she works in her day job when she's not mystery writing in the documentary industry. So I'd like to welcome you to the show today, Kaley Roberts. Kaley, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Fantastic. Now you're on the East Coast today, right?
I am. I'm in Brooklyn, New York.
Wow. Welcome. Welcome from Brooklyn. I used to live in Connecticut and used to love to go into the city. So
yeah, that's where I'm from.
That's where it's at. No, it was great to live back there for a while, but I escaped back out to the west from the home area back to Colorado. All right. So what we like to do, Kaley, if you've listened to the shows, I think you've listened to a couple, is we like to basically give people an opportunity to follow along today. So if you could you please give us a website or a social media address where people can find you, so as they're listening along, they can kind of be those surveyors in the background.
Sure, yeah. Well, I would say the best place to, actually follow along with me career-wise is probably on my Instagram, which is at Kale Chips and Dip. So Kale Chips and Dip.
Okay. As in the plant kale?
Yes, I am truly from Brooklyn. As in the plant kale chips and dip, and I go by Kale with my friends. So it's a joke, but yeah. And then I also have a website, kaleyjay.com, KALEYJAY.com.
Okay,
but
fantastic.
Less often updated, yeah.
Oh my goodness, the fact that you admitted kale, I'm not sure I know anybody I really like that eats that stuff, but I guess we'll forgive you for that.
Oof, I love it.
All right. So let's go back to the beginning. We always get the backstory because that gives people a lot of insight and helps people understand, hey, my life may or may not be that different from the people we interview. So I'd like you to go back with us and tell us where you were born. Did you have any siblings that survived you as far as, your treating of them? Things you might have done when you were growing up in school, so interests, sports, theater, drama, writing, etc., those types of things. If it's shoplifting, you don't have to list the places you did. What your parents do for a living or have done for a living, so we understand, the influences that were in your home, and just sort of give us some background there. And if you don't have to worry, I will remind you of these things. So why don't you start us off and take us back to where you were born and tell us about your family life.
Okay, awesome. Well, I was born, like we mentioned, in Connecticut in a really, really small town right on the beach called Niantic. And it's a great coastal community, very kind of blue collar, and if you live by the ocean, or if you have lived by the ocean, you know, like it's a good place to live. And I guess we're technically on the Long Island Sound, but yeah. And so my parents, my dad, he's an engineer and he works in energy. So he had his own business when I was growing up. Now he works on the corporate side. And my mom, she has like bounced around a little bit. She was a stay-at-home mom when we were born. There's me, and then I have a younger sister who's 18 months younger, so very quick succession there. And then we have another younger sister that's 6 years younger than me. So 3 girls. She was home with us a lot, and she went back to massage therapy school when I was 12. And got her massage therapy license, her yoga certificate. She's a personal trainer. She has so many things. I can't even remember them all, honestly, but very into health and wellness, I would say.
Health and wellness. That's great. Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. So growing up, what types of things did you do to fill your spare time? Sports, interests? What did you do?
You know, like we said, I did listen to a couple episodes, and I was laughing thinking about how I was going to answer this question. So I can remember one of my earliest memories is being 7 years old. My younger sister, who's 5 at the time, is outside playing softball with my dad, like throwing the ball back and forth. And I remember I was upstairs in my room looking down at them, just being like, there's no part of me that wants to do that. I was so not athletic, like tried softball, tried lacrosse, tried soccer. I think I kicked it in the wrong goal very early on, and I knew I was done for. But I was up there in my room, like drafting a story. I was very convinced from a young age that I was meant to be a writer. I was really obsessed with Harry Potter. My grandma read all 7 books out loud to me growing up. So yeah, starting when I was 5. And yeah, so I think I always had that like passion of like, I want to be a big writer, and I just want to tell stories. So I would say it's not like the easiest career path to figure out, because there's so many ways you can do it, but I'm happy that I'm getting there.
Cool. So what were the dynamics between you and your sister?
Oh, I mean, we're total opposites, but in terms of like interests, I mean, we have the baby too, who's she would probably be mad if she heard me call her the baby, but Davin, my youngest sister, she's a great mix of the two of us. But the middle and I, Kendall and I, we, she was so athletic and very, into sort of like more sciencey stuff. She's getting her doctorate right now, actually, which we're very proud of. And yeah, I was always into like theater. And it was funny though, because our parents had us since we were only 18 months apart, I think it was more convenient for them scheduling wise to like just have us do the same activities. So she did theater with me and like hated it. And I did softball with her and
hated it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
It was great. Yeah.
So were you pretty close, or was there rivalry?
Oh no, I think that's the beauty of it. Like we were able to be really close because we weren't really competitive in a lot of things, which was nice. Maybe by design, by us, honestly. Yeah.
And then your relationship with your youngest sister, that was probably a little different just because of age, right?
Yeah, I'm sure you have like 5 kids, right? So I'm sure like it is different when you're growing up and you're 6 years apart. When I left the house, to go to college when I was 18, Davin, my youngest sister, was 12. So I really never lived with her as like any semblance of an adult. But now she's in college at Fordham, so up in the Bronx, and we hang out a good amount in New York City. And when COVID hit, we were both quarantining at home, so that was really fun and special. Yeah.
Well, my daughters are, I think, 7 years apart, my oldest and my youngest. So I have 2 daughters, then 2 sons, then a daughter. And, that old phrase is kind of true. Bras and Barbies don't mix. I mean, you're just in different worlds.
I've never heard that phrase, but I like it, and I will use it now.
It's not mine. It's not mine, and I can't even attribute to where I got that, but it's literally when there's that much age difference, you're just into different things. Okay, cool.
Totally.
So your mom way into health, and was a stay-at-home mom. Your dad an engineer, has his own company and stuff. So you finished high school, I'm assuming, and went off to college. Where did you go to school?
Yeah, so I went to Boston University.
Oh, wow. BU. Nice.
Yeah, it was fun. Go Terriers, right?
Yeah.
The hockey, I know, is big, but as we've talked about, did not catch a game, which is probably shameful to admit.
Oh,
no.
you know, out here where I live in the shadow of DU Pioneers and like 9-time NCAA champions, I'm almost embarrassed to say that you were a BU student and didn't catch any hockey games.
I'm almost embarrassed too.
Oh, that's
yeah.
right.
But it was great. I mean, I went to BU because they had a really good film program, and it came down to either BU or NYU. And by the time I was done with high school, I kind of knew, well, I still loved writing. And I was like, you know, in high school, I was editor-in-chief of my school newspaper and like wrote opinion pieces every week and stuff. But I guess by that point, I had kind of been captivated by the promise of like telling story via film or television, because I mean, that medium is a lot more collaborative, first of all, than writing. And it's a lot more like flashy, I guess. I don't know.
Sure.
I mean, writing can be too, but at the end of the day, you're always sitting in front of your computer doing your job. Whereas film and TV are, you know, on set. I literally just got back from a 5-day shoot. So, it's not glamorous, but like it's fun, you know?
Sure.
So yeah, so I wanted to do film and TV, and I went to BU, majored in film and TV and journalism. So it was I did it in 3 years. I was like in a hurry to get working.
Okay. Sure.
And I moved out to LA right after. Like I could not get out to Los Angeles fast enough. And BU has like a really cool, you know, do a semester in Los Angeles thing. So they hook you up with like
a semester abroad in LA.
Literally, I know you're in Colorado, so you're in the middle, but as an East Coaster born and raised, it was a different world. It was a semester
absolutely.
abroad.
No, it is, you know, Los Angeles while the LA basin is enormous and there's so many people there and it is a gigantic sprawl, it is not the same type of a city as a Boston or a New York. It just isn't. And so
it's more like a series of neighborhoods, I would say.
Yes, exactly. It's exactly because you don't really, well, people from LA might argue this, but you don't really have a downtown district in LA like you do in a Boston or a New York. And you know, Boston has the whole collegiate vibe. You know, there's 35 colleges there. It's a college town. It's hip. It's cool there.
Yeah.
New York is just, you know, technology and fashion and banking. You know, there just isn't that same type of thing in LA. It's different. I mean, you've got Hollywood, but it's a different thing. So yeah, okay. So I was being a little bit of a smart aleck, but at the same time, a semester abroad in LA, it does fit.
No, it felt like a semester abroad. And it, you know, I would say I was so happy that I did kind of move to LA right away, because it's such an industry town. I mean, their export is just entertainment. So, you know, when I first got there, I had all the energy that a 21-year-old fresh out of college would have. And,
sure.
You know, every night of the week, you can go to like this film screening or this discussion or, you know, this bar or whatever, where you meet people who are also working in the beginning of the entertainment field. So yeah, it was really like immersive, I would say, which was awesome.
Well, and no temperature is generally under 50 degrees, so that doesn't hurt either. So fantastic.
Yeah, that did not hurt.
So you went out, you did your semester abroad. Did you come back home to Connecticut, or did you hop right back to LA? What was the next stop?
No, for about 10 days, I came home for Christmas. Okay. And I was like, I mean, my whole family, my mom and dad went to preschool together. Like, they were raised in the same town. Like, my grandparents all live pretty much in my town. And so, yeah, for me to move to LA was kind of unheard of. So I booked the ticket, I think, the second I landed in Connecticut. I was like, and I have a ticket to go back, because if I didn't have that ticket, I'm sure someone could have convinced me to stay.
Stay home. Right.
So yeah, I did it. I went back right away and started working at NBC as a production assistant.
Oh wow, at NBC. Now, was this in films or was it in TV, sitcoms? What exactly, specifically, what genre were you in at NBC?
I was on a little show called World of Dance.
Okay.
So reality. It was J-Lo's like reality dance show that she did, and I was on season 1 as a PA. Sometimes I say I was on it. I know. And people are like, "Oh, you dance?" And I'm like, "Oh, no, 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 no. I do not have the hand-eye coordination for that."
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just making awful gestures of sticking my finger in my mouth, but I just don't have a whole lot of good things to say about some of that
About
genre.
J-Lo?
But
Oh,
yeah,
about
well, she's
reality.
very, very
Mm.
talented, but some of those
Mm.
shows are like, really? Are you kidding me?
Trust me, I know. And that's also the reputation they have in Hollywood too.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, that was like a 5-week gig, which my whole
Oh,
family was like, "You're moving to LA for a 5-week job." It's a little
right.
different. But I kind of knew, I was like, okay, I gotta get over to the scripted side because everyone in that, like, that feels like the vibe kind of is, oh, scripted is more premium. But I actually liked reality because it's real people, it's
Sure.
so fun. Like these real people come in from Oklahoma and they're staying in a hotel in Hollywood that people who live in Hollywood are thinking like, that's such a crappy hotel, but these contestants are like, this is the best time of my life. And
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
refreshing. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Hmm.
after the 5 weeks with J-Lo's show, what was next?
So then I went on to, and maybe your kids might be a little too old for this, but I went on to Fuller House. So like the
Okay.
Full House reboot on
Yep.
Netflix.
Yep.
And that was on or that's shot on the Warner Brothers lot, excuse me. So I was the office PA there for just about 6 months. And my memories of that are pretty much just driving around like Burbank, Warner Brothers Studios, like in a golf cart, dropping off scripts, like very hot. Um, and yeah, also just like very fun too.
Fun. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, so we were at basically 7 months of being in LA. Now, what did you do after that?
I know you're like, how do we get to a book?
Yeah, because
Well,
we're gonna get
yeah,
there eventually.
I know. Well, I was really burnt out because I don't know if you've ever talked to anyone that's been like a production assistant before, but it's hard work, I do have those fond memories, but like you're driving home sometimes like 2 a.m. after working like 12-hour days, and I didn't live close. So yeah, so I needed like a mind body break kind
Sure.
of. Actually, I just needed a body break. There's not a lot of mind work as a production assistant. I think I was kind of craving that.
All right.
So I actually got a job at HBO,
Okay,
like the
cool.
network.
Oh,
Yeah, which
nice.
was really fun. Um, and yeah, so hang on. Yeah, so I got the job at HBO, the network, and um, that was awesome. And it was like way different because it was business affairs. So yeah, like it was a lot of mind work. I mean, I was talking to the DGA, I was looking at contracts. I did not go to law school, and I was having to learn how to read contracts for like
Sure.
talent and which credit were we obliged to give them, yada yada. So that was about 180 degrees different. And meanwhile, this whole time I'm at HBO, I got another job at HBO in awards, which was really fun. I got to go to all those like ceremonies and stuff.
Okay.
And yeah, so but while I was doing that, I was thinking like something felt like it was missing. And I'm not sure if you've had like a creative person or like an artist maybe on your show before, but I guess something I learned, it took me a few years to learn, was that if you really just want to create, like, I don't think you'll find a job that will just give that to you. I think you
Correct.
kind of have to earn it or make it yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
no one's going to hire you as a writer if you're not already writing. So
Yes.
it took me a bit. Like I was really thinking, oh, I'm going to get a job, with a lunch break, with like whatever vacation days, and be a writer. But yeah, I ended up, while I was at HBO, sort of slowly kind of developing my own. I took a class at UCLA, like a journalism class, just to kind of refresh my writing, because it had been like 2 years since I'd written. And that was kind of nice. And I started like a website, like a small startup website. I mean, I don't think it got any traffic. I know it didn't get any traffic, but it was fun because I was interviewing women who had unconventional career paths, and wanted to talk to them about, you know, how they found their way into that career path, and was hopeful that it would help other women who are fresh out of college and like me, like don't really understand like how it works, kind of open their eyes to like, there is so much you can do with your career and your life. And I think, you know, not to get monologue-y, but I think our culture does kind of paint a certain image of what you do when you start working. Like you go to the office, you work 9 to 6, you have a lunch break, you do this, you do the job and whatever, the corporate stuff. But yeah, I don't know, like I was really inspired by these women I was interviewing who were doing like cool cakes on Instagram, or one of them was even just getting her PhD in like pop culture music, and one of them was writing a book as like a 25-year-old about biomedical engineering. So yeah, as soon as I started writing again, that spark really stuck. So yeah, it was exciting.
So I want to pivot back to something just from my perspective. When you went to school up at BU, and you were investigating what to major in, what did you envision, what type of job did you envision that you would have in film? I mean, did you want to be a producer? I mean, you talked about writing, but you know, we all have to put food on the table, right?
I know.
So now, not every college kid thinks about that. You know, we got a lot of people with a lot of debt with the degrees that they can't, you know, ever monetize. But what were you thinking you were going to do with your career in film? Because you went to LA for a lot different reasons than many people go to LA for the film industry. They want to be in front of the camera. Okay. Listen to our audience out there. Listen to the episode with Valerie Baber. I mean, interesting story. Dirt poor from Oklahoma, goes out there. Wow. Interesting stuff. Okay. So what were you thinking about when you were at school that said, this is what I want to do with my career?
Yeah, I think I had this really cool experience when I was at school. We had this class. I was taking all the different TV classes, production, learning a bit about audio, a bit about video, a bit about everything, which B is really great about. But I had this one class in particular where we actually had a client, and we were divided up into teams, and we had a client give us a small budget, like we're talking like $500, which is very, very small, but we had free equipment, so it was fine. Right. And so we got to shoot a short documentary about this school in Lawrence, Massachusetts. I don't know, are you familiar with Lawrence, Massachusetts at all?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think, and we're gonna have to fact check me on this, but it is one of the poorest cities in America, if not the poorest. It's right north of Boston, about 45 minutes north of Boston. And one interesting statistic that the client told us right when we met with them was, in Lawrence, Massachusetts, a teenage girl is more likely to have a baby as a teenager than to graduate high school.
Wow.
So yeah, huge issue there. So this school called Esperanza Academy, it's a magnet school, and they get girls, it's a lottery system, and they get girls from Lawrence when they're in middle school. So when they're in 5th grade, and their mission is, okay, we're gonna have them from 5th grade through 8th grade. They feed them well. They have a professional chef come in and cook 3 meals, because you can't count on the fact that these girls are eating outside of school.
Sure.
And they start college prepping with them in 5th grade. It's all about just, how do we get you the right scores to get into a good high school? And then, let's get you thinking about college. Because for some of these girls, the school is the only place that they're going to start thinking about college,
Sure. And
so anyways, we made a short,
might have been somebody, their first person in their family for all generations to go to college.
Completely. And so we made a short documentary. I think we spent about probably 5 days there. And I got to direct and produce it. And I had like a team of, a director of photography and an editor and a like associate producer and a writer. And we all worked together. We were in that school like from sun up to sundown. And when that was my first instance of telling a story that I felt like really could matter. And like, I knew right from the get-go that I had to keep doing that. And especially like the female angle, I had to stick with that. But I think to what you were saying before about how were you thinking of making money, putting food on the table? I think actually I was thinking about that too much when I moved to LA, which is interesting because I knew I had this passion for telling these stories that, I mean, if you're in documentary film, the rule is kind of, you're not in it to make money, right?
Sure.
And
it's like being a teacher. You're not in it for the money, right?
Exactly. And it's a hard field for not that much money. But I was like, the young capitalist in me at the time was like, I'm gonna go. I want a high-powered job. I want, maybe to be a big producer, maybe on like a big show, or maybe to like be an executive, like at a network, whatever. And I think I realized when I was there that career, it would take me way too long to get to that high-powered point of making a lot of money. And that would just be that would be like 15 years of doing something that I wasn't passionate about.
15 years? Oh my goodness. How could anybody do something for 15 years?
I can't. When I was only 21, 6 years older than that, that still feels like a long time to me.
I know. Okay. So looking back, you probably thought you put too much emphasis of finding jobs that would pay the bills rather than further advance your career goals, right?
Right. Well, I think my career goals shifted. Like, I think my career goal was like, have a nice office, or more like surface level things, like get a nice salary, like have vacation days, whatever, and work like regular hours and maybe have a lunch break. But now I would say, like, when I left LA, I was pretty intentional about realizing that, like, if I want to tell stories, like, you can't do that from like an office, so and it's been really rewarding. I mean, it's been sometimes hard, but overall, like, my boss and I were talking about it the other day, and she was like, because technically I'm freelance now. And she said to me, some people just can't stomach freelance and this much up and down in your career every day. Because when you're, this just from doing the podcast, when you're working with real people every day, that's a roller coaster. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. There's no systems or formulas really. And I said to her, I was like, I feel really lucky that at a pretty young age, I already know that I can't stomach the opposite.
Sure.
I can't stomach like the everyday.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Put me in a W-2 and lock me up in an office. Forget about it. Sorry.
I know. Right. Yeah.
So I was kind of wondering, looking at, you want to do the writing side, and then the fact that you had you said, was it your grandmother that read all of the Harry Potter books out loud to you? And so maybe you had visions of being the next J.K. Rowling. I don't know. So, but I'll tell you a secret. You're talking to one of probably only 9 other people in the world who've never, ever read a Harry Potter book. And all my family members did. They were all into that. The movies were the bomb. I never went to one of the movies. So the rest of the other 8 of us on the planet who have not been involved in Harry Potter, we do have a sympathy group. Just kidding. But so that's interesting. So you went off wanting to do the writing side and those types of stuff, but ended up getting into the business side, and it really wasn't all that exciting.
Yeah. And I thought I was going to make a lot of money, which I guess, like, for my age, maybe I made an okay amount, but like, it wasn't enough. Like, I was like, I at least have to try to do what I feel like I'm meant to do.
Okay. So what hopscotched you up to? What was the pivot point that made you decide to write the book?
Yeah. So actually, it was weirdly, as these things are, felt like a pretty seamless and almost like fateful transition, because I was doing that class at UCLA to just kind of get my feet wet again in writing. And then I started a website with my articles that I had written in that class. And I was like, I'm just going to keep, even when the class ended, I was like, I'm going to keep interviewing women who have cool career paths and just write articles, and I don't care if anyone reads them. I just will have them.
Sure.
And so one of the women I interviewed, her name's Stephanie Wisner. She's amazing. I went to high school with her. She had messaged me saying, "Hey, I'm writing a book. Would you want to buy a copy in advance?" Because, you know, this whole pre-sale thing would help her fund the printing, yada, yada. And she was working with a publisher. And you know me, I mean, I've always been passionate about writing, and since I was little, a pipe dream of maybe I could be an author someday. So immediately I was impressed and intrigued, and I was like, "Can I write an article about you?" And of course she was psyched about that, because even though my website probably got 2 people looking at it, you know, it's some traffic, some help for her, for her book publicity. And her book, I really honestly need to do a refresher about it. But she is just this really cool, like, biomedical entrepreneur, I would say. She's been working a lot with the COVID vaccine, which is really cool. She's only 26 and she's just doing these amazing things. And so I wrote the article about the book, and I wanted to call the Georgetown professor that had gotten her involved in this program, this book writing program. And I wanted to get a quote from him about her. So he's a really cool guy. His name's Eric Kester, and he's a professor at Georgetown. He does all these really inspirational seminars, one of which is called Quitting Upward or Quitting Ahead. Yep. So it's like, when you quit your job, make sure you are, you know, here's how to quit your job, but still come out ahead.
Yep.
And I had just quit my job at HBO.
Yeah.
So, and I was like doing the leap of faith thing, moving to New York, looking for a job. And I messaged him being like, "I would love to get a quote from you about Stephanie, but also I'm really interested in your quitting ahead concept."
Sure.
We had probably a 10-minute call. And by the end of the call, he goes, you really sound like someone who wants to write a book. I mean, have you thought about doing this program, you know, the next round? And I was like, ooh, you know, I'd had a book idea in my head for about 3 years, but you know, where do you start with writing a book? It's so hard, and it's such a lonely thing. It's such a thing that there's not really a template for. So yeah, I mean, I jumped on that opportunity, and I thought, you know, even if this doesn't work out and I don't finish the book, at least I'll have all of his tools that are designed to teach first-time authors, you know, how to gather research for a book, how to start drafting. So yeah, that's kind of where it began.
Okay. So tell us about the book, and then how long did it take you to write it?
Yeah, so the book, I mean, I think you saw this in my bio. It's not the happiest topic, which I was kind of hesitant. That's what made me hesitant to write it for 3 years, because, you know, you could probably see, like, I'm a pretty happy person, and my family is very supportive. So I knew that, like, as soon as I wrote my first book, everyone would be excited and I would want to be excited. But this book is about unreported sexual assault and violence. So because that was, like, having grown up being interested in women's issues, and grown up not only being interested, but with, like, a mom who was very present. Her mom was always around, her sister was always around, my other grandma. And then my 2 younger sisters. I mean, we are really just a pack of women. and so this issue felt really poignant to me. And when Christine Blasey Ford did her, you know, came forward with her accusations against Kavanaugh, it made me even more passionate about wanting to actually write this book, because I had heard people ask my friends in college, you know, why didn't you report? Like, if you were assaulted, like, or raped, like, why didn't you report? And then I heard everyone, like, my, you know, I love my family, but some members of my family were asking that about Christine Blasey Ford. Like, well, if she was actually assaulted, she would have reported. And, you know, our former president said that at a rally, basically. And also I had really a very intimate experience with it, in that I was sexually assaulted my freshman year of college. And my ex-boyfriend, who was my boyfriend at the time, or or right after, I was telling him about it. We were talking about it one night, and he said to me, "Why didn't you report?" And I had never, like, that was such a foreign concept almost. Like, I just knew that I shouldn't. And he was like, if you had reported, you probably could have saved like the next girls that man, attacked. And when he put it like that, and he's a great guy. But when he put it like that, I was, I think some people have said like, oh, he shouldn't have said that. But for me, it actually set me on a path of exploring like, yeah, he's right.
Sure.
You can't deny that he's right. And so I thought about that for many, many years. And when everything happened with Christine Blasey Ford, thought about it again. And when this professor came to me with this program, I feel like it fell into my lap, and I was like, I guess I have to do this now. I guess this is the time.
Okay.
So I pitched him the idea. Then he goes, maybe I should just write a book about why people are so brave that they do report. And I was like,
Well, it's a very interesting topic because, human behavior really doesn't change. And at least that's my opinion. Okay. So this is a problem that has been around for thousands of years. Okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and I'm not taking sides, I won't make this political or anything.
Yeah.
Just unfortunately, just the way that the roles have been, traditional roles between men and women, and I won't get into all the other, not things that are going on today. I happen to say a lot of it's nonsense, but that's just my private thing, is we have these roles and they've been defined since the beginning of time. And unfortunately, and I believe it's horrible, because I think there's a special place in hell for people who assault other people sexually. Okay. So rape and sexual assault are horrific crimes, but unfortunately it's been around with us forever, and it's been this taboo, right? It's been a taboo thing. And the statistics are terrible about the number of women who experience it. And even in today, in our cancel culture, where it is so easy to come forward and make accusations, there is always an era of, well, did she deserve it? Or, well, did she bring this on? Or should I, report these things because it might look bad on me? So I think it's a very brave topic, because I played football in college, and we just happen to drink a lot of beer in our spare time and go to lots of college parties and that kinds of stuff. And, I used to tell my parents, well, I'm pretty much majoring in football and drinking beer. So why do I need to go to organic chemistry? But the result of that, there were just a lot of, back when I was going to school, the legal drinking age was 19. So literally, the minute you stepped on campus, pretty much everybody was legal to drink. And so the amount of that went on was dumbfounding. I dated a couple girls from some sorority houses, and the stories that were prevalent from those, because they'd have these big raging parties and big house parties and stuff, and things would get out of control. Now, I'm not making excuses for anybody, okay? I just not. I like I said, just roll back a couple of minutes ago, I think there's a special place in hell for people who sexually assault another human being. But it's just been in our culture for so long, and it is a very serious subject. And like I said, I won't get political on it, but I think that's quite a brave topic that you did for your first book. I congratulate you for that.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think that college culture, as we have designed it in America, and I will call it excessive drinking now, but at the time it only felt normal to me, and what I should be doing. And I like you drank a lot of beer in college, and they're inextricable. That culture and sexual assault are truly inextricable, I believe.
Yep.
Especially after, for my book, I interviewed the whole, the premise of the book is that I interview 6 different women who were sexually assaulted or raped and didn't report.
Yep.
And I asked them, like you, I'm really interested in the full person. I'm interested in who they were before. Yep. I'm interested in why they decided not to report, and I'm interested in who they were as a result of not reporting. And I actually don't even get into any details about the assaults in my book, because those are hard to read sometimes.
Yeah, and they're not, that's not as important as what the issues and the damages that it causes.
Exactly. And so, but what I was going to say is just that these women, so many, I talked to a lot more women than the ones that made it in the book. It is so common that they were in college, they were at a party, they drank too much, maybe blacked out, maybe didn't, but woke up maybe next to a guy that they had no idea they went home with, that type of thing. And then another commonality that they all have pretty much is, and I had too, is, well, I'm not going to report because I don't want to wreck his life. This was like, I can just deal with this. I can internalize it.
Yeah.
They felt terrible. It's not to minimize like how violated they felt at all, but they also felt like, since they were drunk, and the legal drinking age for us is 21, and a variety of other factors, maybe this guy was in their circle of friends.
Sure.
They just didn't feel that reporting was the best option, which is fine. But that, again, back to what my ex-boyfriend said to me, that just leaves us with the issue of then the behavior is not being stopped. If it goes unreported, no one can stop it. So, and yeah.
one of my early interviews that I did was with a young lady named Amelia Zachary, and Amelia went to college in Malaysia, and she was raped at college, and she didn't tell anybody because of the shame, factors, and just all these reasons. She held on to it for almost 20 years, and holding on to that rape experience essentially exasperated mental health issues, because it was as if the trauma, of course, of something that horrible is like PTSD. I mean, it's just a terrible trauma. So she has an amazing story of how she basically internalized this for like 20 years, which is crazy. So I laud you for being able to sit down with these women and talk about this and understand the depth of the damage, because I'll never understand that as a man. I'll never understand that.
Yeah. And I mean, I want to connect with her. First of all, she sounds amazing, and good for her for telling her story. Because
it's a very transparent and telling story. So listen to Amelia. It's a great
interview. Yeah, I will. Thank you. And I want to be clear that the other half of the issue here is that when people do report, so often, like literally the vast majority of their statistics online on like the rape network and all that most of the time when a perpetrator is reported, they walk free. It's like, I want to say 1 in 250 end up getting convicted. And it's just really low chances that reporting actually will, like the law enforcement system, when they do know about a perpetrator, as the law enforcement system exists right now, they're also not stopping him. So that just makes it even harder to want to report, because it's like, oh, what's the point? I'm risking so much in terms of being re-victimized, in terms of my story going public and feeling shame or guilt, in terms of this man's life or woman's life being wrecked. And if it's for nothing, then kind of what's the point? But what I come to in my book is, I present some solutions, but also I say that unfortunately these solutions are so big, and I'm not going to stop pushing for them. But in the meantime, to go back to your guest Amelia, like, I think the most powerful thing we can do is sit down with each other and tell each other, warn each other, explain to each other. I mean, as you know, like, I grew up with so many women around me, and there's such a stigma around this, like sexual assault, that I didn't tell any of them until the book was basically coming out. And I was like, by the way, here's an early copy. You might be a little shocked, but
read this part, huh? Yeah. So what was the
Yeah.
experience like writing the book for yourself? You know, you'd been around books all this time, writers and stuff. It's a fairly laborious and lengthy process, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. Yes, it was the worst experience of my life. But I say that with love because it was absolutely terrible, but it was also so fun. I learned so much. It was so rewarding. And I had to, I mean, still to this day, I am now at the part where, I'm picking my cover and I'm
Okay.
like, how does this work? Like they're designing my ebook and I'm like, oh, okay. And so every point of the process has been something new and a learning curve, which can be hard, but also then like now I know. So writing the book took about, I started in March of the pandemic, really. So that was awesome because right when the pandemic started, I was home and I had nothing else to do. I didn't have a job. So started writing then, started researching then, calling people, and then did a lot of Zooms just like we are, just talking.
Sure.
And then I would say I had my first draft finished in July and my second draft finished in I guess like February. It took a long time.
So we're recording this on the last day of March, so March 31st. So this is not an April Fool's joke today. So when is your book due out now? I know it's on the horizon, right?
Yeah, so it's actually due out at the end of April. It'll be on Amazon on April 30th. And I think I haven't officially gotten back to the publisher with this yet, but I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna do 99 cents for the first month just to kind of get it out there.
Get it out
and
there.
Then so get the ebook for 99 cents. And then also I think I want to just offer it to anyone who's ever been sexually assaulted or raped, which unfortunately I'm probably draining myself of profit because so many people have. But I think that these stories are so important that I would really like for anyone who's ever experienced those things to be able to get it for 99 cents or free or whatever, because that's just, like we said, we're not here to make money.
So now you're currently working for a documentary film company there in New York, right?
Yeah.
Do you have another book project in mind? I mean, what's next for you?
Yeah. So I'm with I'm a director's assistant to a documentarian who's a female, young, really cool. So I'm gonna stick with her during the day, and then during the night/weekends, I do have a few more book ideas coming. My dad really wants me to try fiction, so we'll see, maybe. But I have some. I'm pretty obsessed with the QAnon phenomenon. Not I'm not a believer, but I'm just obsessed with how big it's gotten and how viral it went, and all of those things. So I've been doing some research about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things going on in our world right now. It's crazy.
What do you think I should do next?
I don't know. I really think you have a knack probably for helping these people tell their stories. I think there are probably some other themes of drama out there that people, I think the problem that we have in our world today is we have become a culture here in the United States. I won't speak for anywhere else. We're just headline readers. Just little snippets, just little headlines on Facebook or Instagram or wherever we're paying attention, Twitters or whatever. We get these little tiny headlines, and from that little headline, those 10 or 12 words, it's as if we've drawn all the conclusion and information from those stories. When the reality is, 80% of the time, that's only a snippet, a tiny, tiny snippet of what the article is really about. And so I do think that storytelling is an art that needs to be returned. So I can remember back on my honeymoon, we went to Alaska, and
amazing.
No plans. We're just running all over the state of Alaska. We were there in kind of the end of the season, and we went to the Wrangell St. Elias National Park, and of course we were there the weekend after Labor Day weekend. So it was like the whole state of Alaska was shut down, but the weather was still great. And we stopped by the ranger station just to get a map and learn stuff, because Rangel St. Elias is huge. It's a massive, it's the largest park in the United States. And the ranger was a storyteller. And
Ooh.
we sat down with him and for like 2 hours, because he had nothing to do and neither did we. So we just listened to stories about, you know, the park, and people got lost and eaten by bears and just all kinds of things. And it was a phenomenal time. And then I just love the whole genre of like cowboy storytellers. There's so many people out there that do that. And then the one I miss from my childhood, well, not childhood, young adulthood, if you ever get a chance to dig up from the archives, and there may be some of this on YouTube, is the Prairie Home Companion radio show that we used to be on. And it was on during the 90s, 80s and 90s. And it literally was like old time radio. And they told stories and they act things out and stuff. Fantastic genre. Fantastic.
Amazing.
Genre. Yeah.
You know, I think that actually could be making a comeback, because I mean, you're on the trend. Podcasts are taking off. Yeah. And you know, this I'm sure you listen to like Serial or the serialized podcasts that aren't serial. I think it's only a matter of time before we get a boom in that. Yeah.
Well, you have some skills, and so I think a lot. But I don't know anything about what you're full. Just follow your passions. That's what I would tell you. That's what I've been able to fortunate to do. Just follow your passions on the things, because you can't force creativity. Okay.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love about the little project I have going here is it feeds a creative side, because I get to talk to a lot of interesting people and learn a lot of crazy stories. And I forget her name, but I'll have to go look her up. One of my guests moved 63 times between the age of 9 and 15.
That's amazing.
She was a refugee in these refugee camps in Germany, and young. She's still a young person. She's like in her 40s. And
oh my goodness.
Her father was an international con man. And so, I mean, just where do you run into stories like that? And so if you indeed are a storyteller, don't box yourself in, and follow your passions, and follow the story that makes you really interested, because that's easier to write. If I were to sit down and have to force a list of people that I was going to interview and talk to them and the questions, that would be painful. That would be absolutely painful. So anyway.
Well, I'll get back to you, Rex, when I figure out what my next thing is.
Well, we're going to have you back on.
Again.
We'll have you back on. Okay, so thank you for coming on. You've been very generous with your time and sharing your story, and also being opening up to a level of vulnerability to let people know that you had a personal experience with what your book's about, and what's a very special topic. So you know what's coming if you've listened to any of the podcasts, okay? Everybody's got their bucket list out there, things they're going to do before they die. And all those love to do's. Well, there's always an opposite of everything in the world. If you've taken any physics classes, there's always an opposite. So that list rhymes with bucket, starts with an F, and I'm not going to say it. So what might be on your F-it list that, you know what, Kaley is just not going to do?
I knew this was coming, because I did listen to your episodes. So in my free time, what little free time I have, I like to write for food websites. I'm a big foodie. I'm a Taurus. We love food stereotypically. So I have to say that one thing I will never, ever, ever do. I love good food so much. I will never eat something that's like disgusting. Like Fear Factor. Did you ever watch that? Like how they always had to do. Yeah, like they would eat like spiders or live bugs or something. It makes me want to throw up just talking about it. How about you?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm kind of a foodie, being an old football player and stuff. Sardines is one thing I'm never doing again. Sorry, I had those once. And then when I got out of college, when I was in college working towards my master's, I went down and spent about 6 weeks in the Amazon and places. And I ate things that I know I would never, ever admit to eating or want to eat again. Yeah. Well, we were out and we ate monkey and all kinds of stuff like that.
Was it like prepared? Like, was it cooked and
yeah, it was, but okay. But think about it, Kaley. Yeah. Does barbecued monkey sound any better than raw monkey?
No.
No, right? Okay. Does barbecued bugs sound any better than live bugs? No. Does does bug stew sound any better than just a bug sandwich? No. So just,
yeah,
I'm like you, gross things, just not me. So
I'm not putting them in my body. No.
Well, thank you very much. You've been fabulous with your time, and we will check back in with you because I think you've got some interesting things going on here. You've been a gracious guest. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me. It was so fun getting to know you.
Okay, thank you too. All right, folks, we're going to call that a wrap for this episode. Thank you for tuning in and listening to our story today, getting to know Kaley a little bit better. Don't forget to hit her website and get her books and all the projects she's working on. I want to always remind you to stop by the show website, rexandrewshow.com, and you get all the information from all of our guests that are on the show. And until next time, like I say always, be safe, be bold, and make it a great day.